You've been told you're lazy, unmotivated, or maybe even lacking discipline. But what if that isn't the truth? What if what looks like laziness is actually your nervous system crying out for safety? In this video, we'll expose the myth of discipline and explore how unresolved trauma, survival instincts, and the absence of emotional safety affect your habits, your motivation, and your self-worth. If you've ever blamed yourself for not being consistent, this might be the breakthrough you've needed. Welcome back to Mentor's Mindset. We live in a world that, glorifies the grind, wake up at 5 in the morning, take a cold shower, push through discomfort. And if you can't do all that, you're labeled lazy or weak. But here's the truth. Willpower isn't a personality trait. It's a limited resource, and that resource is quickly drained when your body is stuck in survival mode. Think of willpower like a battery. If that battery is drained by stress, fear, or unresolved emotions, there's no energy left to build new habits. No one performs well with a flat battery. So before you judge yourself, check the charge on your nervous system. Your brain has two primary goals. One is to keep you alive. The other is to keep you safe. And it will always prioritize safety over success. If something feels risky, even if logically you know it's a goal you want, your brain will find a way to avoid it. Not because you're broken, but because you're wired to survive first and thrive second. So if you're constantly anxious, exhausted, or hyper-alert, your brain won't focus on goals. It's too busy trying to protect you from perceived threats. Examples. You avoid starting tasks, not because you're lazy, but because your brain associates those tasks with past failures or emotional risks. You scroll for hours or binge-watch shows because your body is seeking nervous system regulation, not entertainment. Quote, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your nervous system. You can write the best to-do list in the world, but if your body feels unsafe, overwhelmed, or emotionally flooded, that list won't matter. Healing isn't about trying harder. It's about making the environment, internal and external, feel safer. Let's tell the truth. Most people who struggle with focus or consistency aren't lazy. They're overwhelmed. They're in survival mode. They've been carrying invisible weight for so long they've almost forgotten what ease feels like. Their internal world is in chaos, and in chaos the executive brain, the part responsible for planning, decision-making and future goals, gets switched off. What takes over instead? Survival instincts, and survival doesn't care about your dream journal or your morning workout. Trauma, whether big or small, it teaches the body to prioritize defense over progress, especially if you grew up in a home that was unstable, unpredictable, or emotionally unsafe. Patterns that get labeled as undisciplined, inconsistent routines, avoiding responsibilities, freezing before deadlines, exhaustion or emotional numbness, and let's add more. Procrastination, emotional numbness, overthinking, even overworking to avoid stillness. These are all ways the nervous system tries to manage discomfort. What the world calls a bad habit is often just a protective loop. These aren't character flaws, they're protection mechanisms. Real talk. If you've never experienced safety, then discipline will always feel threatening. If success once led to more pressure or even punishment, your mind will avoid it at all costs. Your nervous system works like a scanner, constantly evaluating whether you're safe or in danger. When it feels safe, you experience motivation and clarity, and when it feels unsafe, it shifts into stress responses. Polyvagal Theory simplified. Ventral vagal, safe. You feel engaged, calm and connected, sympathetic, fight or flight. You feel anxious, on edge or panicked. Dorsal vagal, freeze. You feel shut down, detached or numb. Emotional danger can look like criticism, uncertainty, or fear of failure. Your brain doesn't know the difference between being chased by a lion and opening an email that might contain bad news. The response is the same: mobilize or shut down. So what's the point? Trying to stick to routines while you're in freeze mode is like trying to run a marathon underwater. Your body isn't resisting productivity. It's prioritizing survival. You can push all you want, but you won't get far. Instead, you'll blame yourself for the heaviness. You'll say, why can't I just do it? When the real question is, what does my nervous system need to feel safe enough to move? Many of us never learned what safety feels like. We were taught to perform well, obey the rules, or suppress our emotions. We weren't taught to soothe ourselves or regulate our emotions. If chaos was normal growing up, calm feels unfamiliar or boring, rest feels like laziness, routine feels restrictive, success feels like pressure or exposure. If your childhood was full of unpredictability, criticism, or hyper-performance, your baseline became hypervigilance. You learned to read the room before you even entered it. You mastered survival, not self-trust. Deep belief to challenge, I only matter when I'm productive. This belief turns every act of self-care into guilt. It turns discipline into something that feels dangerous. This is why many people sabotage their own progress, not because they fear failure, but because they fear what happens after success, the attention, the expectations, the responsibility. It's safer to stay small than to risk being seen and misunderstood. Story example. Imagine someone who buys every productivity planner, downloads every app, and still feels stuck. That person often only finds progress after addressing their inner emotional wounds, not by trying harder, but by healing deeper. Because every time you rest, every time you take a step back, shame creeps in. And that shame isn't motivational, it's paralyzing. True discipline comes from knowing you have worth, whether you're producing or not. We glorify hustle, we shame rest, but here's the truth. Hustle without healing is just self-abandonment in disguise. We equate productivity with morality. The more tired you are, the more admirable you must be. But chronic stress is not a badge of honor, it's a warning sign from your body. Breakdown. Hustle says, keep going no matter what. Healing says, let's understand what's hurting first. Hustle says, push through the pain. Healing says, let's soothe the pain and rebuild with care. Hustle says, if you fail, you're weak. Healing says, if you pause, you're wise. Analogy, trying to build habits without emotional safety is like building a house on unstable ground. You have to stabilize the foundation first, or the structure will keep falling. You have to clear the land first. You need safety, quiet, peace. Only then can discipline become something sustainable, not just performative. Discipline is possible, but only when the body feels safe enough to access it. Step 1. Regulate before you act. Ask yourself, do I feel safe and grounded enough to do this task? If not, try one of the following first. You wouldn't force a crying child to do math homework. You would calm them first. Your nervous system deserves the same care. When you ground your body, your mind follows. Breathe slowly for 90 seconds. Splash cold water on your face. Step outside and move your body. Hum a song or shake out the tension. Step 2. Stop using shame as motivation. You can't shame yourself into lasting change. Shame makes you freeze. Compassion allows you to try again. Step 3. Start small and celebrate wins. Your nervous system builds trust slowly. Each small success sends the message, see, we can do hard things and nothing bad happen. That's how you rewire fear into confidence, one gentle win at a time. Big transformations begin with tiny shifts. Celebrate the 5-minute effort, not the 5-hour goal. Celebrate the fact that you showed up, not just the outcome. Your nervous system builds trust slowly. Each small success sends the message, see, we can do hard things and nothing bad happen. That's how you rewire fear into confidence, one gentle win at a time. Your inner critic says you always mess this up. Your inner child says, I'm scared to fail. Your inner coach says, let's try again with kindness. Practice. Listen to your fear without making it wrong. Recognize your inner critic without giving it power. Build the voice of your inner coach through repetition and softness. Reframe, maybe you're not unmotivated. Maybe you're doing your best while carrying invisible wounds. And maybe it's time to give yourself credit for how far you've come. What if discipline is just another word for reparenting, not punishing your flaws but supporting your potential, not forcing outcomes but providing structure that feels kind and consistent? Ask yourself, would I treat a child the way I treat myself when I fail? Would I expect a child to function while scared, anxious, or overwhelmed? Would I push or protect? Now apply that same care to yourself. What if you're not the problem? What if the discipline you seek is already inside you, just waiting for the conditions to feel right? What if the real work isn't to try harder, but to feel safer? You are not a machine. You're a living system. Growth requires rest. Change requires emotional security. You are not failing. You're learning to exist differently. Final reminder. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be supported, and that honestly starts with you choosing softness over shame every single day. If this message resonated, you're not alone. Share this with someone who's been blaming themselves for what their nervous system was never taught to handle. We need to change this conversation. Self-blame doesn't heal trauma. Safety does. Let's start building a world where regulation comes before routine. Comment below. What's one practice that helps your body feel safe enough to show up? Subscribe to Mentor's Mindset. We are not here to grind ourselves into the ground. We are here to grow gently with intention and with real tools for real change. Let's see you soon in our next video.